Welcome back to the NetsFansYouKnowPodcast. I'm Peter. Another episode. I had to bring the big guns again. I had Saint last week. I had to bring somebody else in this week to help me out. You've heard him probably talking for hours upon hours in spaces. He's coming for Frank Isola's job. Welcome to the show, Cash. What's going on, brother?
I'm glad to be on here, man. I never get to do pods. This is different for me. So I'm glad you invited me on, man. I'm glad that we can do this.
Anyone who's probably watching this or listening to this, you know what's going on. You probably have already watched or listened to his spaces. So at the end, I'll give you another chance to throw out some promos and whatnot. Shout out to Caleb. Shout out to Brooklyn Netscast.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Saint, Jay from BK, Brandon, everybody. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I didn't get to edit this as quickly as I wanted to, so I had to cut out a couple things that were kind of dated. This takes place right before the Charlotte Hornets game, and my apologies to Cash. All right, back to the pod.
We clearly see the beginning of games, the Claxton, Ben minutes. We're fighting a hole out of. The defense is not as good or as complimentary or as stifling as the offense is stifled. You can't say that. You see what I'm saying? Like It only makes sense to do it if you're going to be so disruptive defensively that it affects the outcome of the game, where guys start on the opposing team so poorly, so locked up, that you create that constipation in their offense, and then it makes the pressure of the bench guys to hit shots that much heavier, because if the starters aren't hitting shots, what makes me think that I'm going to start hitting, if I'm coming off the bench. The best way you can give confidence to your bench is for your front starters to hit shots, because then they come in feeling confident that they can hit shots as well. So I think what we're looking at is, look at the pieces that do fit together. I think that, Dinwiddie and Ben, and I think to some extent Ben and Cam do fit together, but I don't think all three.
I agree.
I think that they're, if they let Claxton be free and let him shoot, this is a totally different argument, right? We're not even having this argument, right? If we're treating Nick Claxton the way that the Lakers treat Anthony Davis, which is, we don't give a shit about your percentage, we just want you shooting to the point where people have to close out on you. You have to be seen as a threat. And he will hit enough from the corner. Like, he only has to. What does he have to shoot to be to run out on him? What, 32%, 33%?
I think even 30%.
That's what I'm saying. So once that space is created, now you don't have to worry about Ben being crunched or being smushed in. And the other thing I do want to look at is, I do think Ben physically is back in a lot of ways. Physically, and I think now he trusts his body a little more, and you'll start to see him playing a little bit better. The one concern I do have is that those plays that used to be drives and, where he would take off from the dotted line and dunk, are now jump hooks. Okay?
They're shots.
They're basically jump hooks. They're stop, jump hook, pump fakes, where he's not actually looking to draw the foul, which is discouraging. So if he's not looking to draw the foul and he's really kind of taking a not so great percentage shot, then to me, and he's not able to dunk at the level he was in Philadelphia anymore, that's troublesome. That's a little, where is his scoring going to elevate to, really? Because if he's not going to shoot, then I don't want to live with 10 jump hooks a game. I just don't think that's really what I want to live with. To curtail your entire offense to 4 around 1, but the one that they're around is not a good free throw shooter, shoots not a great percentage around the rim. I would rather Claxton. Claxton shoots 70% around the rim. Claxton's a much better finisher around the rim than Ben is. So think about what you're building your team around. And with a guy like Ben, if you're playing him at the 5, like they did when they played small ball, or the pseudo 5, where DFS plays the 5 on defense, then you have to put supplemental rebounding in with him, that get out and go. So I just it's gonna take a while, I think, for them to realize what pieces are gonna mesh together, and I think that that's kind of why I curtailed my excitement because I think that the team does have talent, does have athleticism, is a top tier defense, but all the pieces coming together with this coaching staff is going to take time, and that time we're going to lose games. Like it's just going to happen.
So I'm gonna take what you said and kind of focus on 2 points, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're fucking nobodies, right? We're fucking nobodies. You've made great points talking about stuff. How come the Nets don't focus in on what you just? How did they not know? Right? They know this shit. Like, let's be
Yo,
honest. They know
pride
this
is a
shit,
very
bro.
dangerous thing. Pride is an incredibly dangerous thing. You
I
get
think
a
it's the
bunch of
contract.
people.
I
If you
think
get a
it's the
bunch of
contract
people
too.
in a room who are afraid to lose their jobs based on one guy being wrong, they're all going to tell him he's right. And they're going to tell everybody else, they're going to argue with everybody else that he's right because they know if once he's gone, no one's protecting their jobs. That's the problem is like so Joe Tsai has cleared out so much of the organization, cleared out so much of and put in his own people and then fired his own people that like all the people that are either Sean Marks or Jacques Vaughn people know that they have to either jive or they get thrown, right? Or they get replaced.
But
So
isn't
Jacques
this
Vaughn was able to pick his own staff. Jacques
the
Vaughn was
first
at
time that
least
happened, by the way, for Brooklyn Nets head coach
first
since
time that's
Sean
ever
Marks.
happened,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was a kind of an interesting subject because so he picked Kevin Ollie, which I thought was a great pick. But I also think that he may have picked his successor. And I think what they did do is they let him pick his own staff to make up for the 2 times they passed him over because they kind of felt like
Absolutely.
he got them out of a jam by coming in and stepping up and coaching when they really wanted Ime, and he didn't make a big stink out of it when they were flirting with Ime and he was coaching, which, by the way, we should have bought in. We should have just had a hush-hush deal with Ime and signed Jacques
Mhm.
Vaughn for the rest of the year and had Ime come in the next year over the summer quietly. Like, that we should have had an agreement
That
of
was
that.
stupid.
That was stupid to let him go. I mean, this organization has made multiple coaching errors. I mean, you cannot say that Sean Marks has good tastes in coach. Kenny Atkinson is an
Absolutely.
okay coach now. He was not this then, okay? So he's improved greatly. He's still not that great of a coach. Jacques Vaughn is not a good coach. Steve Nash is not a good coach. Jason Kidd is not a good coach. In those times, those are the coaches that have been hired pretty much alongside his tenure.
Well, J Kid was actually
Not J
hired.
Kidd,
Yeah,
not J
yeah.
Kidd.
Mhm.
But those are the 4 coaches he hired. Okay, since those coaches, he has passed on Quinn Snyder, Ty Lue. Say what you will about Budenholzer, but Budenholzer. He's
Chauncey Billups.
passed Chauncey Billups. He passed on Ime Udoka. He's passed on Sam Cassell. He's passed on Adrian Griffin. He's passed on uh, Tom Thibodeau was available. He passed on. I mean, we can literally name almost every coach that's had or lost a job in the past years has come across our desk, and he's been unable to get a quality person behind the bench, someone that gives you an advantage. He's been unable to do that.
I think you made a great point with that. And the whole thing with JV getting to hire his own assistants, keep in mind, JV was brought in to kind of, how can I say, babysit at Kenny Atkinson, right? Not, I shouldn't say babysit, but kind of, lead him along, right? It was Kenny's first job as a head coach. And then you have
We
Steve Nash,
had Mike
JV,
D'Antoni
same thing.
and Steve Clifford in the house. In the house, we had them both. We could have had Will Hardy. Come on. What are we doing? What are we doing here? We picked Jacques Vaughn, and then we pick him, and then we extend him unnecessarily. You want to take him and make him the G League head coach. You want to make him, let him have every person he wants in the G League. You want to take him and make him the head of player development for the organization. Go ahead, let him pick whoever he wants. But he's got to be the coach. He's got to be the mind behind the bench for that portion of time, those 48 minutes between the lines. He's got to be our general. He has to be.
After they didn't sign Ime, I guess I was okay with JV, but I don't know if you remember this. How long was it that what was it, like maybe a couple weeks to a month that he was with KD and they gave him an extension? Like how quick was it? I got even like maybe even look it up. Felt like it was pretty quick, right?
I do not remember. I honestly don't remember.
I'm gonna look that. I'll look it up in post production. But
so much
it's crazy.
happened. So
It's
much
wild.
happened. Yeah. And he's survived. I mean, Marks and JV to be still standing after this is incredible. You would think any other organization would spray the blood off the walls, right? And would bleach everything, turn the soil, salt the earth. No recognition of what was before.
I will. I gotta stop you there because I will say this about Marks. Like we were getting shit on after the Boston trade. Like people forget after the remnants of like the whole Boston trade and Billy King. Like this was considered, even though it was New York City, this is one of the worst jobs. They have no draft picks, and he did get us to the point of getting KD and Kyrie. You have to give him that. Now, did he fumble it completely? Yes, he did.
He got us to 42 and 40.
Okay? That's a good argument.
He got us to 42 and 40. We were the island of misfit toys. Okay. We had enough assets now that we could trade and get supplemental talent. We had some supplemental talent here that could win, and that did get the attention of Kyrie Irving. We had nothing. Sean Marks had nothing to do with getting Kyrie's attention, nor did he have it getting KD's attention whatsoever. Kyrie picked Brooklyn, and then the idea was originally they wanted to do the Knicks. The Knicks didn't want to give KD a max because of his Achilles at his
age. You believe that, bro? Are you serious?
That's
really?
100% true.
That's why I can't believe that shit.
But it turned when he wanted to bring in KD, and KD was already rumored to want out of Golden State. And he was like, I want to go where Kyrie's going. And Kyrie was like, well, I want to go home. And the Nets looked way better than the Knicks at the time. But they also wanted to go where they could affect the organization. They wanted to go where they were going to call shots. They wanted, really what it was Kevin Durant wanted to position himself to where Ace Kleinman was the president of basketball operations for the Brooklyn Nets.
I believe that.
And then Kevin was going to graduate into ownership of the team in another timeline. Okay, you roll double sixes, and in another timeline, a parallel universe, Kevin Durant is part owner of this franchise. We won multiple championships. Ace Kleinman is our GM or is our president of basketball operations. Some other, Eddie Gonzalez is our GM, whatever, like whoever, you know what I mean? Right, exactly. Somewhere like this entire team is built around boardroom and Joe Tsai, and they are basically they become that's the relationship they build out of.
It's a partnership, right?
It's a partnership, and they built it all the way down into the dirt. They are partners in a soccer team and a lacrosse team. They're him and Nash, like they're going to be partners for a long time. So there was a long-term plan to sort of take over, all these areas, together, and it just didn't happen that way. And the pandemic had a lot to do with that. So not to get too deep into why things happened the way they did, but I am still surprised that, Joe Tsai has not announced anything about Marks's extension. We have no information about what his contract status is. It was reported by Kristen Woodfield last
That he
season
got
that
one,
he
yeah.
reportedly got one, and then it was refuted, and then it died. The story completely went
Yeah, they
ghost,
put it in the water, dude. Then
and
it died.
that's it. And it's exactly so. So I have no clue. I have no clue what's going on with the organization. Again, I have no connections to the organization whatsoever. Never have. I'm just a fan. Like I don't. And then people like to, because you host the spaces. People like to come into my DMs all the time and say, "Oh, I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
this or I know that." And I'll tell you what, like there are people that have said things that have ended up being true, and I really don't like kind of question people when they say they do or they don't know something. I let them tell me whatever they want to tell me, and if that's what they want to tell me, then fine. But I take everything with a grain of salt. But just know that I'm paying attention to what comes true and what doesn't come true.
But obviously, without revealing the person, what would be the most juiciest thing that came across your DMs that wound up becoming true?
I knew that the second Kevin Durant asked out, I had a feeling was going to end in a trade because it was the second one. Um, if people remember, I held like a huge spaces during the trade deadline. During that spaces, uh, so it was more than one person, and then I heard it from a person in Raptors Twitter that they had missed on KD, and that they think that it was the Nets were kind of used Toronto a bit to push KD's value back up, where Joe Tsai actually ended up finishing the deal with
Yeah.
Ishbia. So I knew Kevin was moving. I just didn't know where. And then I found out it was Phoenix, and I couldn't say anything. So I had to host the spaces. I had to host
Oh no,
the
no, no!
last.
I gotta cut you off here because I was in the spaces when the trade broke.
Yeah.
I was in the space with there was a lot of other people there. I did not sleep that night. I'll be honest with you, bro. I was sick. But you
I was
already
up the
knew
whole day. I had been up the whole day because I had covered all the other trades beforehand. And then once Kevin had asked out, that spaces ended, and I couldn't say that I knew he was getting but here's the thing. Here's what I didn't know. We didn't know that they were gonna wait until midnight to announce it. I found out at like, man, what time? I think it was like 10:40, like 10, like right around 11. And I did one more hour of the spaces because I thought they were going to announce it in that hour. And then I was like, I can't do it anymore. So then what happened was then I'm literally about to go to sleep. I'm like, there's no way they're announcing this in the middle of the night. And I was like, because if they do this in the middle of the night, it's because they want to avoid the news cycle, right? They want everyone scrambling, like they want to just drop it. And I knew that if they were going to do it in the middle of the night, that there was there was no way to predict whether they would do that then or now. But I thought that they were going to wait because they were already using Toronto as leverage. And I had known that. And I didn't share that because only one person shared that with me, that Toronto person. So only one person shared that with me. So then I thought, why would the Nets trade him right away to Phoenix, get that trade back, and then not use the rest of the time to bid him up to see who had a better offer, right? You call, then what do you now you call the Celtics right back. Now you're getting on the phone, you're calling Denver, you're calling Houston, whoever wants to get back on the phone with you, but it's Kevin Durant. So every contender is already on the phone, is already waiting for you on your speed dial. They're waiting for you. So you have the entire league at a whim right there in your hand. And I didn't think that the Nets would mortgage that right away in 2 hours because they had like 5 hours left. But in reality, what they wanted to do was more trades beyond that, and they ended up they ended up just wanting to get it done in the middle of the night. So, but yeah, so I had to host the whole Spaces, knowing that Kevin was getting traded, where he was getting traded to for like an hour.
I applaud you, bro. That's insane. Because I could not tell in your voice. You're a good actor. Because I was intent with the whole thing.
I think I was so tired after the Space. I was so exhausted that people couldn't tell that I was so beaten down because I had already shared the opinion that he was getting traded. That the second time you ask out is the death knell. There's no way. But anyway, so that's a little inside baseball. But people only came to me. But people love. But that's the thing is when you're the voice, like when people love coming to you and saying like, "Oh, I got this little nugget," which is fun. I like that.
Yeah.
And some people just come in and lie their asses off. Like, it's fine too. Like you can do that.
But I'm gonna get off that. That was fun. I'm gonna ask a question now about current team trade deadline. We're gonna fast forward it a little bit. Obviously, Claxton is gonna be free agent. Dinwiddie's gonna be free agent. Royce is gonna be a free agent. If you could re-sign Clax tomorrow, do you do it? And what happens to Royce? Like what's the future of those three players?
Okay, so Claxton, Royce, and the third player was
Dinwiddie.
Okay, so okay. Yeah. You have to take the temperature of what Claxton wants to do before anything. We can't resign him. We have to let him enter free agency if we want to resign him because of the issue with his contract. We just can't resign him outright. You also can't let him walk for nothing. So my issue is you got to first things first is you got to figure out whether he wants to come back, and if he wants to come back at a particular price. Because then if you have that under control, that's different. If you have a handshake agreement, a hush hush thing, for example, Onyeka Okongwu, what did he just get?
I don't know, but he got a nice deal. But
a similar contract to that. If he, you know what I mean, like basically between that and Cam Johnson, if he gets like that, that's somewhere we can. He's got to be below.
Wrong.
What was that?
I think you're 100%. I think he's gonna get close to a max, bro. I really do.
He could. That's if the offense comes around. If the offense really does come around, and if he stays on the floor, he's been injured again.
I agree with that though, 100%. With the whole
he's got to stay on the floor because again, this is now he's had motor issues. He had mono. He struggled at the beginning of last season. He broke he's sprained his ankle. He's got to play. He's got to play. And then the first 3 years he was always also in and out. So getting his body ready because it took his body forever. That's at least the one thing that you can give the credit to Day'Ron over Claxton is you never ever have worried about Day'Ron's health or his body. And I mean, you gotta give he gives effort, even though he's still learning and still frenetic and not still kind of figuring it out there. I still think that there's like a future for him on this team. But anyway, getting back to Claxton, you asked me about their future of those three.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those three have to be traded. There's no excuse for letting today in this day and age in professional basketball. There's no excuse letting a team take an asset from you for nothing, letting an asset walk for absolutely nothing, for not a draft pick, for not anything. Sir, you can't do it. You cannot do it. Look at how terrible the Mavericks have suffered because of Jalen Brunson. They just let him walk. They just let him walk. They could have had draft picks. They could have had compensation. They could have had lots of other stuff that would have helped them maybe wiggle out of this hole that they're in. But they're in it much deeper now because of us. And I don't want to help them out. So to me, I think that Dinwiddie, Royce are interesting pieces that I think a fringe contender would love. I would love to keep Dorian Finney-Smith, to be honest. I know his age may not fit, but his contract sure as shit does.
Yes, it does.
And if he's able to play an effective, 3, 4, 5 at $10 million, and going down, that's a bench, that's a commodity. That is a very, very valuable piece. So, but he is worth 2 picks. So it's, or
Mhm.
someone out there thinks he might be. So, at least according to Sean Marks. So we'll find that out later down the road. But my vote is you cannot if you are unsure about the future of the asset with your team, if you don't have a contract understanding with Claxton before he hits free agency, no, you got to trade him. Dinwiddie, you have to get it. You got to get a pick back. If someone gives you a pick for
2.
Dinwiddie, take it.
I want 2 back. I want 2 first rounders back. I had someone in my DMs tell me I don't want to. I don't want to tell it's hard because I don't the person. I can't even say anything else. But
I don't think he
someone
gets you
DM'd
too.
me. Yeah, someone DM'd me and said 2 first round picks. That's all I get. You know what I mean? I don't want to say anything else because the
I
person
don't
didn't give me
know.
a
So
pass date out loud. You know?
2 first round picks to me is we are right on the fringe of contention. And we're literally we either just lost our supplemental scoring guy, or because here's the thing is also, with his money, he is a tradable contract. But when the teams that are competing get up there in salary, they may be under that salary cap restriction that forces each trade to be dollar for dollar.
That's a
So
good point.
based on a team's cap situation, they might have already eliminated themselves from trading for Dinwiddie and not knowing it. But I think that at this point, getting a draft pick for him is a win. Score immediately.
You need it,
You
bro.
you take
Anything else
it.
is lost in my mind. You just
Well,
right.
to me, I think the real vision here is you graduate Cam Thomas to the starting lineup.
That's my thought exactly.
You
Yeah, I
you
agree.
fig you then what you do is you're now in full competition with Lonnie Walker, Dennis Smith Jr., um, for backup Cam Thomas, shooting point guard, maybe defensive supplement, DS, those minutes. Maybe you could throw Royce in there too, and you can have him be that playmaker Royce for that 15, 20-minute sweet spot, and find a new way to utilize him with the second unit. I like that idea. So then once you clear out Dinwiddie, you're clearing out a lot of shots, you're clearing out a lot of space, you're clearing out a lot of minutes for Cam Thomas to come in, and also for Lonnie and for DSJ to take over more affordable contract guys that have proven it elsewhere. One incredibly defensive that plays up, one incredibly offensive that plays up during the playoffs, like we saw Lonnie Walker do. And then I would really like to see, once if Royce is traded, um, I would really love to see Jalen Wilson get some minutes. I think his body physically is ready. He's 6'6", 240. He's got great wingspan. 4 years at Kansas will make anybody better at basketball, I promise you. You look at how good he made Grady Dick look. He's a connector. He could play the 4. He could play the 3. He's smart. He can shoot the corner 3. That's all we're looking for from a supplemental position like that. And just the more smart basketball players that connect and can play with other basketball players, no matter what their style, will help us, because we have 2 very specific, very particular players right now. We have Cam Thomas and we have Ben Simmons. And those are delicate stars. Ben is delicate, and you have to build around him a certain way. Cam is delicate. You have to build around him a certain way. Even Claxton with his limitations, you have to build around him a certain way. Which is why I think Mikhail is so valuable. Why he's the most valuable player on the team is because you can put him in any situation, no matter how this team looks in the future, and he fits. which is why I'm glad we invested in his future, is because him being the centerpiece of the team. Because if you can make him the number 2, your second best player, he's so versatile, so all around. It's staggering. That's exactly what you want from your second starter. You know, so that's what
I'm
that's what
happy.
I.
I'm happy you said all that because I was gonna bring up Bridges. Like, are you a little nervous about all this? Because with the how can I say? I should give more context. I think I said this with Spen on Fireside Nets. I see Bridges as like the 1B. He's not the 1A, and his play this year is kind of
Yeah,
back that
I've
up for
said
me.
that in very
Mhm.
different. I've said that just in a different way. I've said exactly that in a different way.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
I call him the 2 all the ones would pick first.
Absolutely,
So you
100%.
have a game, you set up Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid and Curry and all those guys get set up. How many picks do they get? You fantasy draft them. The best guys and the only captains get to pick, and it's 5-on-5. How many picks before he gets taken? And I think it's maybe 1, 2. Like
Yeah.
who's like a 1B? I mean, depends on how you feel about guys like Donovan Mitchell. Maybe
Mm.
how you feel about a guy like, I don't know, maybe like with like a De'Aaron Fox or you could get particular and be like a Draymond Green kind of person. But
Mm.
I think he just if he's not the first or second, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if they wouldn't pick him coming, to help think about it, to help protect
I
what a
agree.
number 1 superstar is trying to build. He's low maintenance. He's fun. He's easy to be around. He does all the dirty shit. He comes with Cam Johnson, who's another 6'9" shooter like, come on.
Of
This
course.
guy he comes accompanied with an elite role player. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
makes
I
sense.
think I
Absolutely.
think to build around him is a smart bet. That's why I think, I thought the Dame move would have worked if it meant you were also getting Giannis, but there was no promise of getting Giannis. He would have
Good
had
point.
to he would have had to basically play this whole season lying to them about leaving, and I don't think he would have ever done that. I don't think
Hmm.
he would have taken his word for it. And then you're in a situation to where you gotta pick a person other than Giannis, and it's like, okay, who are you mixing with Dame and Mikhail? And then you're forced to go get Cat. Now I think Dame, Mikhail, and Cat, that's forceful. That could have maybe gotten you a championship. But I'm glad they didn't force it because honestly, if that team gets one, I would be surprised. I would say they are a very, very good team, but I still think that team with the peripheral players would struggle like again against a team like Denver, against the teams that are coming up. So I'm glad we didn't spend our load on from Kevin all in one place, and I'm glad that we still have a shot to go get great players. Giannis may
I
not
think
be
great
leaving
shot.
Milwaukee, but we look very, very formidable. The team looks way better than it did in 18-19. It's going to be, I don't know. I think this is a 44-win team.
Mm.
I think this is a 44-win team. Uh, yeah, and I'm excited for the season. I'm like really
Yeah.
excited for the season. I think this is going to be like a fun team you can finally like root for.
I've been holding you almost for almost an hour already.
Oh,
I'm gonna just start like winding this up. Give you a couple
we're good,
what
man. We're good. We're
more
cooking,
questions.
man.
I know, man. We gotta
This
save
is
this
light work for me. This is foreplay.
pretty much, right? Pretty much. You
Right.
guys go crazy with the hours. I was gonna bring up. So who do you see in the future? Maybe a year from now. Like, what is that superstar that comes? Like, who could? I'm not saying who could it be. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Donovan Mitchell. Who knows with that? A lot of people are like that move. I like Donovan Mitchell, but I feel like there's somebody else who we haven't heard yet who's going to ask for a trade maybe like a year from now or 6 months from now. Who do you think, if you had to take a guess, who would that guy be?
Oof.
If you could think. If you can't think of anybody, you could just say that also. I'm putting you on the
Here's
spot.
what I'll say. If Sean Marks is still our GM, I think
Ooh.
that he would try to go for someone that is within the next crop of superstar players. If now this is if Sean Marks was now, I like to try to imagine as if I were Sean Marks, what would I do? Like if I'm looking at those picks and I'm thinking about, what Matt Ishbia said, I don't know honestly how long he would let that team even be bad. Once Kevin Durant and maybe Beal gets it, if it doesn't work, I think that they could always trade Booker and that gets them pretty far out of it, but he's always going to pay for talent. He's always going to try to put the best, team out there. That's what he says he's going to try to do. So if I'm looking at those Phoenix picks, I'm starting to think, maybe they're not as valuable as I think they are, but I still think that they do carry a bit of weight. So I'll be interested to see. Like I think that what he's trying to do is target one of these second tier teams that have a really exceptional talent. To me, the guys I would be looking at is like Zion, LaMelo,
Really? Hmm.
Anthony Edwards, Trae Young. Um, you know what? Even in like Houston having Shangoon, or let's see what Orlando's able to put together with Banchero and Wagner. When the superstars in one of those locations, like one of those teams is gonna screw it up. You got to be just all you got to be is ready, right? All you got to be is ready. You also never know when another team, like let's say a particularly good team that you thought was going to be good, like Memphis, let's say they bottom out and they end up getting a quality lottery pick. Like who knows? Like I don't know if they control their own pick or not. I'm just using them as an example.
Yeah.
Look at a Golden State season where they bottomed out that one season and they ended up getting the second overall pick, right? They got Wiseman. They picked why they should have picked LaMelo. That could happen to a contender that's looking to maybe bring in, I don't know, a Ben Simmons. I don't know, or a Dorian Finney-Smith or something like that, and maybe we shuffle our picks, and now all of a sudden we're picking in the top 5 in a draft. I think that is more. I think the Nets shuffling and picking at really high in the draft or shooting for a really great player might be a little more likely than us trading for like Luca, right?
Oh yeah, that's wild.
Or yeah, that's wild. Like, you know
That's
what I mean?
wild.
Like trading,
People are crazy
yeah,
with that. I
like
hate it.
trading for the 4
Bro,
best
come on.
players in the game. Like we're
Yeah,
not getting Luca. I mean, maybe Donovan Mitchell. I've heard that floated. I've heard Karl Anthony Towns floated a million times. I've heard lots of different things, but I
it's just
do
cycles,
think,
you know.
but I think that what we're doing here is we're building I hate the word culture, but the culture is going to be built around the effort and the ethics of Mikal Bridges. We're going to make sure all the guys that come in here are built off of whether he wins a championship here or not, his impact is going to be felt. That's what we want. And we want to bring as much young talent in to compete as we possibly can. And we want to keep our age down. Like right now, if we get off of Royce, Dinwiddie, and
Claxton?
oh no, if we get off of Royce and Dinwiddie, we're like the third youngest team in basketball.
Yeah,
Something crazy like that.
something like
Yeah,
that. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so I want to be like a 26 overall, 27 overall year old team, and then bringing in 22-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 19, bringing them into that and having them hit their window simultaneously, having them hit their stride together. So I think that if to me, the biggest target I would swing for if I'm Sean Marks would be Zion. I think that
Really?
I think that
Hmm.
the Pelicans are vulnerable. I think that they're going to try to trade Brandon Ingram, and then they're going to realize that they could get way more for trading Zion, and they're going to say, "Hey, listen, like he's been injured. We've had this history, and we could get so much back for him, and it could save our franchise. You know, this is our Oklahoma City trade." They could say it to themselves. This is our Kevin Durant Oklahoma City trade. And then they could do it for Brandon Ingram too. I just don't think Ingram is that valued the way that
Really,
Zion
bro?
would
But
be.
look at he's still young, bro. He's still young.
But his value is really down, and I think that he doesn't realize how much
Hmm.
his value took a hit in FIBA, and his value
Really,
is taking a
bro?
hit because I think that it's I'm not saying he's not a great player, but I think that where teams might view him right now is that kind of Karl Anthony Towns, that three. If you
Wow.
can get him as your third best player, you're in a championship window. Whereas as your second best player, he might not be. Just because the
Hmm.
defense is okay. It's not incredible. It's very okay. And he's not a fantastic rebounder. And he's not a fantastic creator for other people other than himself. Zion is a freak. Go look at Zion's shot chart from the last 2 games. It's insane. It looks like the Incredible Hulk. Like it's like how the Incredible Hulk would play basketball.
Hmm.
um, so again, as I speak, you know, there may be no plan to do that, but um, I'm positive. I think the Nets are going to be able to catch one of these teams in a broken situation, hopefully, and then that's just how the league works. Not every
Yeah.
you gotta be as aware of their situation as you are of yours.
I think you made a great point with the whole thing of just being ready. There's such a truth to that. But I'm gonna like I said, I got two more questions. First, one of the first two. What happens with the Nets this year if you have to take a guess? Where do they finish in the playoffs? Do they make the playoffs? What do you think they do in the in-season tournament? Do you care about the in-season tournament even?
Okay. So I think we will actually um our in season tournament group is actually kind of tough. I think it's like the Raptors, the Celtics, the Magic,
It
and I think
is, yeah.
is the worst
And the
team in there.
Bulls.
The Bulls is like the worst team
Mhm.
in there. Um, so I think maybe we'll finish second. I would like to try to, you know, win the Commissioner's Cup. I think that would look really good for a young team like us, especially to show off assets and to you know get attention to guys that are on the trade market. I think that would be nice to do early in the season. Um, so I think that's also kind of an inadvertent thing that the league set up is almost like this is almost a more of a tantalizing sort of thing is to recognize a player's value is like, oh, you know,
Mhm.
hey, you know, in his tournament games, he played up. You could always sell that to a team in a deal, or
True.
you know, so that's exactly what they had.
Mhm.
There was a unintended intention, unintended
I get what
uh,
you're saying.
yeah, kind of factor that created a good environment. So I think, yeah, there's really there's a chance that we could perform well in it, especially hopefully if we're healthy, because we're banged up right now, and
Mhm.
now we're banged up at a position that we cannot be banged up at,
Center.
which is tough for us. So we're gonna have to just work through it. But what is the long term site for like you asked?
Yeah,
I
but
can.
for
I
this
think
year, just for this year.
just for this year,
Yeah.
I think we're a 40 to 44 win team.
Let's
I
see.
think I I think that makes us about a 6 or a 7 seed.
Hmm.
Like I think that makes us yeah, right around I think that's like a 5 or 6 or 7 seed right there. Just because Memphis and the Celtics are just obviously going to run away with it. I think there's obviously going to be a little bit of regression for Philadelphia.
Um,
Miami, I think, will actually play better. They won't be the eighth seed this season. But you got to look out for teams like the Magic, who finished last season really well, and Indiana, who's going to be another force to compete with this season. Also, Atlanta really likes what they've done, a little addition by subtraction, getting rid of Collins. But I like what they did. So again, I think the Nets are going to be the perfect team that a first round team does not want to face, like the third overall seed or a fourth overall seed hopes that we don't come into contact with.
Are we gonna get
But
swept
yeah,
though?
no, actually, I think that if we come against a team that's ill prepared or maybe suffering from injury, I think we would be one of those teams that prognosticators would look at and say, "Oh, wait a minute, this could be an upset. This has got upset potential written on it." Also depends on what we look like at the time. If we trade Claxton, trade Dinwiddie, trade Royce, and we trade them all for picks, let's say, all for draft capital, or for supplemental players that aren't very good, we end up we could tank the second half of the season, even though we don't control our pick. But that's what the thing that I'm excited about is Sean Marks and the organization cannot sit on their hands anymore. They are forced to do things. They are forced to make a decision on Claxton. They are forced to make a decision on Dinwiddie. They're forced to make a decision on Royce O'Neal. They're forced to make a decision on Ben Simmons. All of this is coming and forced upon them in the next 12 months.
I
And
think
all of it, yeah, which
nailed
is it's just like, how can you not be excited or tense or like, as a Nets fan, like, this is the biggest part of the organization, maybe the biggest. We're coming out of the worst thing that's ever happened to the organization, period. Maybe the worst thing that's ever happened to a basketball team, period.
I think
And
good argument for that.
we're coming out of that. So how do you spin that? How do you not turn into the house is haunted? Right? How do you do that? Like, don't go there. The house is haunted. There's 3 ghosts that live there. Scary hours, right?
I think you nailed that like pretty well, pretty good on everything. Like I said, we've been talking we could probably talk for another 2-3 hours.
Of course.
We can talk all day, but I gotta let you go. Last question, and then we'll do a little promo and whatnot. Favorite Nets jersey of all time?
Favorite Nets jersey of all time is going to be the powder blue, like the cloud blue.
You're a horrible person.
But no, not the new ones that they bought back.
Okay.
The old ones, the Drazen Petrovic ones.
Oh, the tie-dye one or no tie-dye?
The tie-dye.
Oh, you're a horrible person.
I know.
The correct answer was the Dr. J jersey. That's
sure,
always
that's
the
fine.
correct answer for that question.
That's always the correct answer. That is the correct answer to that question.
There's no other that, or I will accept the gray New Jersey Nets alternate. That is also that is acceptable. But,
okay, first off, I gotta get this out there. These new cause jerseys are horrific. I'm sorry.
Correct.
I can't look at them. I cannot look at them. I cannot look at them. The only reason why I picked the Drazen jerseys is because that's how I remember them, is like the Drazen jerseys.
Yeah.
And I like to remember them that way, not as like the I'm a white TikToker with an earring.
Oh God. Killing me.
Yeah, I just exactly. That's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel.
Go out, throw any plugs or whatever you want to do.
Oh man, I mean, follow me at Conspiracies and Propaganda on Twitter. We do pregame spaces around 2 hours before game time, so we get around to everybody. So it's on your way home from work, or right as you're finishing up, or if you got a day off, you want to gear up for the game. Y'all can drop in. We talk hoops, we talk stats. We kind of then about an hour before the game time, we get into the game with X's and O's, and I like it. It ended up becoming a hobby, and it's we'll see how far it ends up going, but right now it's fun to do, interact with the tons and tons of really interesting fans, a lot of smart basketball people from all different walks of life, from the women's game to AAU to college to foreign players to we have fans from all the way from Africa and New Zealand, up at 3 a.m. to listen. It's like, man, it's gotten bigger than anything I could have possibly realized. So shout out to everybody who supports. And yeah, you can always find me at Brooklyn Netcast, at Conspiracies and Flopaganda. And yeah, we're just getting started. You can find me also at Brooklyn Netcast on Twitter. If you like the Jets, follow Jetcast and Metcast. If you're a Mets fan, follow Metcast. We are partners. We're partnering up. We're trying to make new content, new stuff for y'all to listen to. You can find me in every single Netcast pregame spaces. We do one every single game of the season. And we do it 2 hours before game time, and it's a riot. We get a lot of characters, a lot of great people, a lot of good basketball that's talked, and mostly we keep it to the game, but it's become our own like little family. So it's awesome. We got a lot of cool opportunities coming up. So just keep it locked in.
All right, guys.
And,
You can follow. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. Anything
Oh,
else?
and then follow Pete. Follow Pete, the only Nets fan you know.